What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 1. Sleepers and studs.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to give you a sleeper pick and my favorite stud at each position.
And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Okay guys, NFL Week 1. Let's take a look at this Sunday main slate. So at the quarterback position, I'm going to give you a stud pick here. I like Justin Herbert from the LA Chargers playing the Miami Dolphins, who had the 7th worst defense overall last year, gave up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Justin Herbert averaged 18.2 fantasy points per game on the season last year. He got an average of 3.2 rush attempts per game. Going to be about 8% owned. He's projected at 20.5 fantasy points here in Week 1. He's 6,900 DraftKings salary, 1,200 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 50.5 points scored in this game, so a high-scoring game. And a close game. They got the Chargers favored by just 3 points in this one. So we know Justin Herbert has monster upside. It is a good matchup. And he's not overpriced here, so I like Justin Herbert here versus the Miami Dolphins. Okay, so a sleeper pick here at the quarterback position. Who do we have here? You could take a look at a guy like Tua Tagovailoa, a guy on the other side of the ball from the Miami Dolphins playing the LA Chargers, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They were middle-of-the-pack defending opposing quarterbacks. So Tua Tagovailoa, he was out for most of the season with an injury, but he was fantastic when he was healthy. Averaged 19.4 fantasy points per game on the season last year. Averaged about 2 rush attempts per game. He's only going to be about 4% owned. Probably a lot of people are going to be looking at how he rebounded from the injury, how he's going to perform, but I think he'll be absolutely fine here. He's projected at 18.5 fantasy points, and he's only 6,700 DraftKings salary, 1,000 more on FanDuel. We know Vegas thinks there's going to be 50.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Dolphins trailing by 3. And Tua Tagovailoa, he can be a mobile quarterback. And the Chargers not very good defending the run. I think Tua Tagovailoa will be able to get a couple of chunk yard runs that are going to stuff his stats a little bit here. So I like Tua Tagovailoa here versus the LA Chargers. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. Of course, stud, you got Christian McCaffrey, but I could name him every single week. So I'll give you a different stud pick here. I like Travis Etienne from the Jacksonville Jaguars playing the Indianapolis Colts, who have the 12th worst defense overall, gave up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing running backs last year. Travis Etienne averaged 13.1 fantasy points per game on the season, was getting an average of 12.9 rush attempts per game and 2.7 pass targets per game. Gonna be about 9% owned, projected at 13.9 fantasy points here in Week 1. He's 6,900 DraftKings salary, 800 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 46.5 points scored in this game, with the Jaguars favored by 5. So it looks like a pretty decent matchup here. And this guy is a beast. If he can get the touches in a good matchup and he's healthy, I think he can go for 15 to 20 plus fantasy points in this one. So I like Travis Etienne here versus the Indianapolis Colts.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
and we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, if you're looking for a stud pick here, a sleeper pick here, take a look at Antonio Gibson from the Washington football team playing the Arizona Cardinals. Did I say the Washington football team? I think they just should have kept their name as the Washington football team. I thought it was really dumb when I first heard it, but then I ended up really liking it. So anyways, Antonio Gibson from the Washington Commanders playing the Arizona Cardinals, who had the second worst defense overall and gave up the second most fantasy points to opposing running backs last year. So Antonio Gibson averaged 11.1 fantasy points per game. He got 9.9 rush attempts per game and 3.9 pass targets per game. That's pretty good volume. And I like to see that he's getting an average of 4 pass targets per game, so he's a receiving back. He's going to be about 5% owned, projected at 10.6 fantasy points here in week 1. He's $5,200 DraftKings salary, $600 more on FanDuel. Now, Vegas does think this is going to be a low-scoring game, only 38 points scored in this game, but they have the Commanders favored by 7, so that could favor the game script for Antonio Gibson in a fantastic matchup. So I like Antonio Gibson as a sleeper pick here versus the Arizona Cardinals. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. So stud pick, Justin Jefferson has a fantastic matchup. He's the most expensive wide receiver on the slate, but for good reason. But another stud that I like is Keenan Allen from the LA Chargers playing the Miami Dolphins, who have the 7th worst defense overall, middle of the pack defending opposing wide receivers. Keenan Allen averaged 17.1 fantasy points per game on the season last year, getting an average of 8.9 pass targets per game. Going to be about 8% owned, projected at 15 fantasy points here in week 1. He's $7,300 DraftKings salary, $700 more on FanDuel. We know Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game. 50.5 points scored in this game with the Chargers favored by 3. So Keenan Allen ended the year pretty well here, scored 12, 33, and 12 fantasy points in his last 3 games. He got 13, 11, and 6 targets in those games. He's always the top wide receiver, and this guy can put up some big numbers. So I like Keenan Allen here versus the Miami Dolphins.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, if you're looking for a sleeper pick here at the wide receiver position, and this is a true sleeper pick here because just don't know what you're going to get from some of these wide receivers coming out the gate. Some of these low salary wide receivers coming out the gate. Really don't know what you're going to get. So I like Tyler Boyd from the Cincinnati Bengals playing the Cleveland Browns, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing wide receivers. Now, Tyler Boyd, he averaged 10.8 fantasy points per game on the season last year, getting an average of 5.1 pass targets per game. He was on the field for 72% of the snaps, only going to be about 3% owned, Now he's projected at 8.9 fantasy points here in week 1. Only 4,100 DraftKings salary, 1,300 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 47.5 points scored in this game, with the Bengals favored by 2. And Tyler Boyd, the matchup, it's decent. It's middle of the road. He did not end the season well. The targets trailed off towards the end of the season. Only scored 6, 3, and 6 fantasy points in his last 3 games off of 2, 2, and 3 pass targets. So we'll see how much he's involved here this season, but I think he is worth a look. So I like Tyler Boyd here versus the Cleveland Browns. Okay, moving on to the tight end position, tight end stud. Take a look at TJ Hawkinson from the Minnesota Vikings playing the Tampa Bay Bucks, who have a middle of the pack defense overall, and they gave up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends last year. TJ Hawkinson averaged 13.1 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 7.6 pass targets per game, on the field for 85% of the snaps, going to be about 8% owned, projected at 12.5 fantasy points here in week 1. He's 5,900 DraftKings salary, 1,300 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 45.5 points scored in this game, with the Vikings favored by 5.5. So great matchup here. And TJ Hawkinson ended the season last year, put up 26 fantasy points off of 11 pass targets. So I like TJ Hawkinson here versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. Now, if you're looking for a sleeper pick, take a look at Logan Thomas from the Washington Commanders playing the Arizona Cardinals, who had the 2nd worst defense overall, gave up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Now, Logan Thomas only averaged 5.5 fantasy points per game on the season last year, getting an average of 4.4 pass targets per game, but he closed out the season pretty good, scoring 4, 12, and 10 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 3, 7, and 8 pass targets. Now, he's only going to be about 2% owned. He's projected at 6.5 fantasy points here in week 1. Only 3,200 DraftKings salary, 1,700 more on FanDuel. Now, Vegas does think this is going to be a low-scoring game, 38 points scored in this game, but they have the Washington Commanders favored by 7. He's got a great matchup, great positional matchup at the tight end position, could take advantage. So I like Logan Thomas as a sleeper pick here versus the Arizona Cardinals.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.